So I'm finding that I actually kind of enjoy doing these videos at home. Go figure. And granted, the ones that I've done so far have been when nobody's around, um, because I don't want people in my business. um, if they were to hear me talking to myself in the office and be like, "Who are you talking to?" and they're gonna say something, want to know information, it's like, not ready to tell you anything, so we're not gonna go there yet. But since they've been hospital trips and they've been out of the house consistently, I kind of like doing this out by the shed. But I do know that um, where the shed is from the house, if somebody's sitting in the living room watching TV or in the family room watching TV, they can see straight out the window and to where I'm at. But since I'm the one that almost always opens and closes the windows, that or the curtains, that'll fall on me. So if I don't happen to, then they won't know. Um, so I'll just have to navigate that if I so choose to. Um, yeah, they're supposed to be home this evening. I think after. Mom said they'll probably get done after 4 sometime, or cut loose. Yeah. So it's like 3:30 now. About time to feed these crazy kids that are staring at me. Well, one of them is. Yeah. So when I was at the hospital with my mom the other day, she had these little, or she'd be on Facebook, and then she'd have the thing pop up with people you might know and suggestions and all that stuff. She'd go through and just hit remove on everybody that she didn't want to connect with or whatever, just see who had to offer. It's like, they're just going to give you more if you delete them all. She's like, yeah, I know. So last night I was putting clothes away in my room, and I get a text message, and I look at it, and she sent me a picture, and it sent, the suggestion that it sent her was my former stepson, who is new to Facebook now. And it's like, oh, that's a blast from the past and hella weird. I was kind of thinking about it. It's like, I think he's like 16 now, and just from the picture that she showed, it's like it kind of looks more like his dad than he did, like he used to. Is maybe a little more favoring his mom, but now he's looking more like his dad. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, since I've talked about him recently, I guess it really didn't surprise me too much that he popped up somewhere along the line. But yeah, it is still weird. That was one of those things. It's like I always hate the disconnection process after breakups and whatnot, because like my ex's family, I left his whole family. It's like, if it wasn't for the fact that they were connected to him enough that they would have given his mom information about me if she had asked, or, oh, let's just see what she's doing, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't even it wouldn't have mattered. But I know for a fact that she used to go on and look at his son's mom's page. So when I left that last time, it's like, you gotta block everybody. It's like, it doesn't matter, and it's like he gets no access to me whatsoever. So that was kind of one of those complicated deals, of just making that disconnection and having to block people that I really liked but didn't want him having information or any information about me. God, especially those. Well, I can't say it was limited to the pictures immediately after, but like, I had some rough pictures. Everything was rough. back then. It's like I was so miserable and had gained a huge amount of weight and was just self-conscious, and yeah, it was just a rough time period. I mean, as can be expected, of course. But it's like I didn't want him knowing anything, and then I was kind of a bit in hermit mode anyway, and I mean, you know, as you do when you feel like garbage about yourself, you tend to try to hide out. So at least that's the Cancerian thing to do. I'm total crab on that. Was hide out. You know, and I had one time that I bumped into his mom and dad when my mom and I went to the store. And it was before the divorce was final, I think. And that was kind of awkward. And my mom said after we went our separate ways, she said, I think she really wanted to hug you. I said, probably. I said, we were pretty close. It's like, she can't help it that her son's an asshole, but here we are. But that was just, you know, after that, it was like, I had this time period where I had thought that I would put forth the effort to look decent anytime I went out in public or anything like that, in case I bumped into anybody he knew. That worked for a little while. But then I just stopped doing really anything. I was kind of, you know, we go the other way when we go down, like, to the store or whatever. We go further out east. Whereas if you turn west on that road, then it goes past the neighborhood that his parents live in. It's like, yeah, we'll just not go that way. However, one of my banks is out there, so I will go that way periodically, but, well, I would have periodically, but now it's not a big deal. Now I don't care one way or another because I'm actually in a better headspace myself and lost 50 pounds in a year, and most of it unintentionally. I feel better about myself as I've been doing this whole healing journey as well. So that's all helped immensely. You know, and sometimes I think about, like, the whole makeup stuff because I didn't really ever mess with makeup too much other than just like a little bit of eye makeup, which is still basically what I do. But I was never really good at it or anything. And then when I was playing roller derby, then it's like, you know what? Roller derby makeup's kind of a big thing. And there were several people that would go all out with it. And there was one girl that would do like stars and like kind of kiss type makeup. I mean, not full on, but she'd have like a big black star over her eye or something. So then it was like, all right, I should do something and start playing around with this more. So I started playing and then learning different things. So then it kind of became a thing that I was more interested in. And of course we had events that we had to do for points with the derby, and one of them that I did last year was participate in the Pride Parade, and it's like, all right, what can I do makeup wise? You know, and CVS I happened to go to one day and they had like these Pride makeup palettes, so it's like I could come up with something with this. And since then I've been using that like almost non-stop. It's like, I like to think I've improved. I won't say that I'm fantastic at it or any means, and I have the tendency to like rub my eyes and all that crap and smear it or wipe it off and not pay attention, but yeah, it's just something that I've enjoyed kind of playing around with and doing different colors based on the outfits that I'm wearing, and get some decent compliments on that. Usually the hair more than anything though. people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be inclined to do it themselves, or maybe are in a job they can't do it, or whatever. I don't know. I know that used to be more of a thing than it is now. I think people are less sticks in the mud on if somebody, like at a group home or whatever, has funky colored hair. But yeah, you know, and when I started doing that, I was actually working at a factory. Yeah, it's kind of funny because, like, the factories, I have had 2 factory jobs since I have been divorced. And the first one got me dressing like I actually had wanted to back in high school. Because I do a lot of the shorts over leggings kind of a thing. And I remember in high school thinking that I wanted to do this, but then I also didn't want to draw attention to myself because I felt like that was a bad thing. So it's like I didn't want to stand out, which, as I have since learned, if I try to blend in, then I stand out more than I would have if I would have just embraced my weird yeah. But it was kind of funny because when I did start wearing leggings even, I had just started the job, and the supervisor was telling us, she said, leggings are acceptable because it's a factory, who cares? You know, and then it's like, okay, cool, I don't wear those. And then I had several days where it was really hot, and I was running around up and down ladders and all this stuff, and it's like, if I was wearing jeans or if I had shorts on, it's like my thighs chafed so bad that I was almost in tears when I went home, or when I was trying to walk to my car. So yeah, so then I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna start wearing leggings. And then I did. But since I was on ladders a lot, it's like I have to have more than just the legging material between my butt and whoever's standing closest to my butt. Because that's not cool. So I started just wearing like shorts over the top of them. It's like, this is exactly what I had anticipated that I would have done in high school when I kind of wanted to go that route. And it's just like, it didn't feel like it was acceptable for me. Like, I was wearing black or white t-shirts and black hoodies and stuff, and, you know, not any color, hardly, because I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. And then when I was at that factory job, you know, I started dyeing my hair when I was 22, but then it was like slightly darker and slightly reddish tones from what my normal would have been. Because normal, my hair's kind of light brownish. But yeah. Although I got a lot more when my roots grew out further than they are now. You can see I'm getting a lot more white these days. That's kind of fun. My cousin that doesn't dye her hair has quite a bit for how old she is too. So it's like, you know what? I've never seen my hair past 22 undyed. Actually, no, that's not true. Basic training I did. But I actually, since I was doing like reddish tones and stuff, and since I was going to basic training, I dyed my hair as close to my original color as I could. So even when I went in, it's like, then when my roots started growing out, I wouldn't get hounded because of my hair. Well, I mean, I did for other reasons for my hair. but yeah, I had it like the natural-ish tone. So after 10 weeks of basic training, and then I forget how long my AIT was, like 2 months or something, then it was, you couldn't really tell. I don't think it was. I mean, obviously it wasn't as white then as it would be now, but yeah. It's kind of funny because like all the women in my family tend to go gray early-ish. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things, and the sun trickling through at the right place. It was just kind of a weird thing, I guess. Anyway, like after that, I kind of went back to the reddish tones, and red, brown, cherry chocolate, I think was the color that I tended to most. And then after the whole TBI and killed the military career, then when I was in Alabama, I actually dyed it almost black at one point. That was, I mean, not bad. Just kind of washed me out a little bit. But it wasn't like terrible. And then, when I was up here after the divorce, the first thing I did when I got divorced was go and cut all my hair off, because that's what you do when you have a big life change, right? Cut the hair, redo it. And I've had really pretty short hair most of the time since I've been back. This is, I think, the longest it's been in a while. Now that I'm doing the fun colors, it's like, maybe I'll go a little longer and appreciate it a little more. Yeah, that's if my bleach doesn't kill it. That's been hard on it many times. So yeah, but I'm sitting on a cushion, but it's not real comfortable at the moment. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I like when I was working at the first factory, I changed my wardrobe because I didn't want to cry on my way out to the car every day or anything, and then spend the rest of the night not moving because my legs hurt so bad. And then I started playing around with different colors, and I had like a aqua blue color and like more purple that I did. But I don't think I really embraced the adventuresome side of it until the dating website incident when I passed a guy who said, his profile, he said, if you have, it was facial piercings, tattoos, or if you have ever had green hair, then move along because I'm looking for somebody I can take to church. I was like, you know what, never did have green hair before then, but I have had it several times since then, and like, it's kind of faded out. I think there's like green over here now, but that's like a washed out thing. But like, emerald's my go-to, or one of my go-tos. I don't ever just do it one color anymore. But like, yeah, that was what started that whole journey. It's just kind of funny because I was thinking, it's like, seems like some of the decisions I've made on that end have been specifically because somebody's like, oh, you're somehow less than if you do this thing, and or whatever. Sorry, that like this. Okay, I thought I'd be in a lighter spot over here, but no, luckily there's more leaves up here. Yeah, but like the decisions that I've made to start doing things You know, it was just kind of like a suggestion. Yes, you can do this. Like, the universe is saying, hey, this would be okay. And then, you know, if I was slow to adopt that attitude of wanting to, then it gave me a reason to. Like where I'm crying out to my car because my thighs are shaved. Yeah, that was fun. Oh, you know, and when I was at that job, it was really working on me to start listening to my intuition more. That was the big thing, that one. And I had this one day that I woke up and was like, man, I don't want to go to work. It's like, I feel like I should stay home a couple hours and then go in. And it's like, well, but I don't really want to make that a habit if there's no reason to not do that. It wasn't like I wanted to stay home and write or something. It's just I didn't really feel like going right at that moment. And so I talked myself out of taking a couple hours off, and I went ahead and went. But then when I went, the two main routes that I used, both were closed because of construction. And so I had to go this other route, and it was like, I think the second time I'd taken it. And this road had this big S curve on it, and I think I'd taken it from work and not to work, and then I figured, well, since my two ways are blocked, then I'll go this other way. And it was like the sun was coming up, but it wasn't all the way up yet, so it was starting to be brighter, but there were still a lot of trees in the area I was at. So I started into the curve, and I got all excited because like one of my favorite songs at the time came on the radio, so I was like, turn it up, all right, let's go. I have enough time where I get to hear this whole song, and then I'll get into work and all will be grand. Except then I realized this bus has come into the curve from the other side and is not slowing down at all. And so like I have nowhere to go, and so I stop. I was like, well, she's gonna hit me. And like she didn't even wait for me to go, since my car was smaller and she was driving a freaking school bus. She didn't let me have the chance to get around her before she proceeded to try to go through it. And you know, you take a long object like a school bus and put it on an S curve, and it takes the whole curve. You know, like that last curve, I was like, it was a slow motion collision, but collision no less. And I heard this kid, she had middle school kids on the bus, and I hear this voice, this little voice, like looking out the window. He says, "You're not gonna make it. You're gonna hit her." Right as she hit me. Although that was fun for the insurance. Yeah. So after I got hit by the school bus, and you know, fire department comes, and they're the first ones there, and after, you know, we have to report that there's a wreck, and that is this freaking curve in the road, and obviously nobody can go through because we're right in the middle of it. And so the firefighters have to help me figure out how to get out of the curve without ending up in the ditch on the other side of it, because I knew there was a drop on the other side. I didn't know how much of a drop it was. So I was I was kind of concerned about that. And they helped talk me through it and all that fun stuff. I got out of the curve, and then they had the bus driver back over into this area, because like if you go, straight wasn't really an option, but if you'd gone straight, there was a construction site right there. So she had to pull off at the entrance of the construction site, and then the police officer that got there, the sheriff or whoever, he had me go pull up next to her. It's like, wonderful. And I call work and it's like, hey, I'm gonna be late. And that was, I think, the big thing for me learning to listen to my intuition. It was because the one day I didn't. It's like I felt like I just needed to stay home a couple hours, go in just a couple hours late. And then when I finally did go to work, when I finally got there, I was a couple hours late. It's like, oh. So if I would have just gone late, then I would have just missed the whole bus incident and just gotten to work at the same time. But this time, since I didn't trust my intuition and I pissed around with that, yeah, I got hit by a school bus and had some stuff that had to be taken care of on that end. That was exciting. And then the next day, I was driving into work and thinking about this whole intuition thing and how I needed to listen to it. And then there was this hawk that was on the power line on the left side of the road, and it flew down in front of me and went into the ditch on the right side of the road. And it was very much just for my attention purposes. Like, okay, that clearly means something. But I took that as it was very supportive of the idea that I needed to start listening to my intuition more, and that has continued. So yeah, but that was the big motivating thing on making me realize that I needed to start trusting myself and trusting that little voice that was telling me to do things like that. Yeah, you figure. And then the other factory job, it was kind of funny because it wasn't the start of the weight loss, but it was a step in that direction. Because with that one, mind you, I had this daily Dr. Pepper habit for a few years. And I thought about breaking it several times, and it's just like, no. And then one day I had this thought, it's like, you know what, when it's time for me to make the big shifts in my life, that's gonna sneak up on me, and it'll be something that happens easily because I just wasn't aware that it was shifting into that direction. Then I had this whole ordeal with my first season of roller derby. There's nobody, kids. Just chill. Barking. Tazzy, no. Thank you. That's enough. Yeah, so you deleted the thought. No, I don't know what I was saying. No, I don't know what I was saying. Thank you. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. No. Okay, that's enough. Thank you. Thank you. No. Put this in your mouth. Hey, no. Anyway. So what happened was I did my first season of roller derby, and I always felt like I was not getting enough air. And I knew I was supposed to have this CPAP machine because I had sleep apnea. I'd been diagnosed with sleep apnea, but then I never got set up to the machine. Well, then I started doing the sport. I was like, maybe I should probably consider looking into that. But I didn't do it immediately. So my first season, I felt like I was dying on the when I'd go to sit out. And it's just like, oh my God, it was rough. So after my first season, where I did not die, although it might be a wonder that I didn't, after the first season, we had the month of August off, and August 18th, it was my cousin's birthday. I had this night that, mind you, I've been living at home since I left my ex. I had this night where I was like, my whole left arm was feeling all sorts of fucked up, and it was back in my shoulder and in my back. And it's like, I'm pretty sure these are all not good symptoms. Pretty confident. And then I went and checked, and everybody was asleep. It's like, well, I don't want to wake anybody up. Let me be, be an inconvenience on that end or whatever. I was like, I knew they wouldn't care about waking, or if I woke them up to say, hey, I'm having an issue. It'd be all right, we gotta get to the ER, whatever. If they would have been up, I would have just been like, hey, I think I need a field trip, right? Yeah, I would have just been like, hey, I think I need a field trip. And we would have just gone, and it would have been okay and casual, right? But that didn't happen. It's like, well, so they were already in bed. So I didn't do that. Couldn't find the aspirin. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure Tylenol's a blood thinner too, so I just went that route instead. It's like, and hoped for the best. Yeah, I know, not wise choice. I worked in healthcare. My mom and her sisters both worked in healthcare. My mom worked at the heart hospital until she had a heart attack, and that ended up being the end of that. But yeah, that was the whole thing. Anyway, so I went to bed and was like, I feel pretty confident that the universe isn't going to just let me die before anything good happens. It's like, I feel like I've been pretty consistently moving forward in some kind of way that is not just gonna let me die. Again, worked out for me, yes, but not ideal. Yeah. So the next day I did call my doctor's office and get in with them. Found out I had high blood pressure, and all this other stuff was, yeah. Okay, well, found out I had the high blood pressure. Since that was an issue, I asked about, well, and I had checked it the night before, because we got heart cuffs around here. We got heart issues in the family. Of course we got stuff to check your blood pressure. And it was like high every single time. It was like, I'm wanting to say it was like 140 over 90 kind of stuff. So yeah, it was kind of elevated. And took it multiple times on both sides just to be sure. Like, yep, that's probably not good. So I called the next day and got an appointment with the doctor, and I think I went in pretty quick. And I figured since I was there, I'd go ahead and have him refer me for a sleep study, because I did have sleep apnea, and it was not, I'd never done anything to get the machine at that point. So it's like, you know what, just refer me to this. Maybe I'll start breathing. That would be better too. Yeah, so after that incident, I did get in with the sleep study, got my CPAP, all this fun stuff. And then I was dealing with all sorts of anxiety at playing, and I was dragging my feet about getting back to practices and everything, because then it was just like this thing looming over my head that had happened, and I didn't want to like keel over when I'm actually playing the sport. That would suck. Yeah. So when December rolled around, my uncles with their puppy in their yard. So I dragged my feet about getting to practices a lot. So then by the time I finally made it, well, we had this charter that you had to have so many points to be able to play. And I did not go it enough to play the first couple of games that second season. And then I was like all sorts of pissed at myself. So it's like, all right, gotta stop hedging around and start acting like I want to do this thing, right? So I started going to practices, and I think I started attending practices more often than not at that point. Because like the first season, I didn't really expect I would get to play any during the actual season. I figured I was just doing this. I was practicing so I could learn how to do it, but I wouldn't really get the chance to do it immediately. But since it was like one of the first seasons back from the whole COVID thing, it ended up being I did get to play. And I would have played the very first game of that season, except for that day I ended up with bronchitis. Like, I woke up, I was like having chills and all sorts of stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I was disappointed on that one. But at the same time, I had so much anxiety at the thought of playing in front of people that it didn't, I mean, it bothered me, but it didn't bother me horribly. But yeah, that like the first season, I was kind of iffy about it. And then the second season, when I didn't get to play the first two games because I'd sat out so many practices, then I had to step it up, and then I wanted to play. So like I started going to practices all the time, and would really only miss the ones like if there was something else going on and I had to do that instead. So yeah. So I went to the doctor in May, the second season, because I was having all these headaches. And, you know, I weighed one thing, and then when I went back in July to get cleared for my shoulder so I could take this factory job, it said I was down like, I don't know, like 12 to 15 pounds. It was like, that scale's wrong, there's no way. You know, and I spent a lot of time just thinking the scale was wrong. So then I get in over this factory job, and I'm running back and forth all the time and living on Dr. Pepper and fruit snacks. Yeah, it wasn't a glamorous time. But then I got to a point where I had lost so much weight that I was having a hard time keeping my pants up while I was at work. Like, I'm gonna have to get a belt or something because this ain't gonna work. And it was funny because I had just gotten the new pants, and then like pretty much as soon as I got them, they weren't fitting. But I wasn't thinking anything about roller derby at that point because I just thought, you know, I played that first season and didn't lose anything. It's like I added some muscle and like stuff shifted on that end, but I didn't lose anything. So then with the factory, it's like it wasn't intentionally trying to lose anything, but I happened to be losing. It's like, that's kind of surprising. Well, I mean, not surprising that I was losing weight while I was at the factory. But you know, my aunt, who participated in keeping the bad habit alive because she was into Diet Coke, and my mom was into the Diet Coke, and I was drinking the Dr. Pepper, and that was our daily thing. She went on vacation. It's like, you know what? Since she is out of town, I'm gonna fast. You know, and then when I turned 40 before before I took the factory job, and with that I made the commitment that if I was going to play roller derby, I needed to act like I was going to take it seriously, otherwise there was no point in doing it. So it's like I ended up losing like 20 pounds, and it wasn't really intentional. It was just something that was happening. And then when I got that idea about roller derby and started skating on my own, it did change a lot of my eating habits. And, of course I fasted in there initially too. And then I got to the point where I loved skating outside so much that I'd prefer doing that to going to practices and everything. Because, of course, obviously you got all these other people that you have to be considerate of when you're going to practices or dodging practices or whatever. And essentially it does affect, who might get to play. Like if somebody maybe doesn't have as much experience and you're not showing up, so maybe they are getting the experience and they might get the chance to play, and then you randomly show up again. That kind of thing. So yeah, once I started skating on my own, I just like skating on my own, because I go, apparently I think it's astral projection. Since I talk about it as daydreaming, because I always just thought it was daydreaming, but I think it seems like it might actually be astral projecting, and I didn't know it was that easy. So, I've always known I was a bit of a daydreamer. I didn't realize that I was actually interacting with people in higher realms. And actually communicating with people who are essentially, they're here on Earth, but I'm connected with them at higher realms. And we just haven't met in the person or in the physical yet. So because of that, it's like, oh, that changes everything, but that's been one of the things that I've learned because I've been outside skating. And it's like, I just kind of navigate this stuff. It's like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm actually connected to these people. Go figure. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. And like all of that, like that stuff, I wouldn't have even registered if it wasn't for the whole twin flame thing that came up. And it's like made me start thinking more about like the things that were happening and grander scale of how things were coming together. It's like, oh. But yeah, the weirdest part was when I went to that first practice after I started skating by myself. There was a Halloween bout, and I was going to practices, or I went to a couple practices, but like the first one back, I'd spent all this time outside and kind of connecting with these other levels, and then it was like I was skating with people, that essentially reach out and touch them on the shoulder or whatever, and then there were these others that were there that I could hear and were communicating with me, but nobody else was aware of them. It's like, I don't think I can go the whole roller derby season next time. Being aware that this other thing is happening where at like higher levels when all these people around me have no idea. I just kept getting like these messages. It's like you've already expanded beyond what the people around you are able to understand. So at this point, it's just gotta know when to just walk away, I guess, and focus on other things. And that was the time. But it all, like, the whole thing was like the weight loss started the thing, and it was all something that happened around me before I made the connections that it was time to do it. And now I'm down like 50 pounds. It's like, hey, kind of like this. Although, I was kind of at a little bit of a plateau, I think, Because, like, I'm still skating, and I might just skate 2 days one week. I might skate 6 the next. It really just depends. The last time I skated was Sunday, and Saturday I did 21 miles. Sunday I did another 7. I thought I was going to skate more this week, but then with my dad being in the hospital, that kind of put a damper on that. I was thinking about going skating tonight, but I just got a message about, today's Wednesday, so there's that class that I sometimes go to is going. Although, I'm thinking I probably missed that one this week. I have the money for it. I'm just really not feeling it, so I'd probably just skip it. Especially since I'm doing this video now and still have yet to feed the dogs, and then at some point, everybody will be back. Everybody, like it's not my parents. Yeah. When I sat down and started thinking about what I was going to talk about for the video, it's like, I really don't know that I have anything I want to say today. I kind of wanted to mention the deal with my former stepson and just how he randomly happens into the picture again. It's like, sometimes it's literally just something that makes you think of them, and yeah. Huh. The kids are being good. Surprisingly, they did get their walk-in today and got a little car ride aside from that. And then my aunt brought her puppy over for a little bit, and Taj wasn't out for that, but he's pretty chill now. He will get to meet the puppy. And that's one of those things too, like, okay, I have been thinking recently that I wanted the opportunity to work with him on getting him socialized with other dogs again, because, okay, I had 9 months that I had to leave him and Gidget with my ex when I came up here. The first serious time I was to try to separate, and that right there, the fact that I had to leave 2 of my dogs behind was pretty much meant I had to go back. There was no, I'm not done without all my dogs. And my mom said it was when I left this one decorative thing. I had like a gecko on the wall, and she said when I left that behind, she knew that I wasn't done. I was like, how could I be done? You know how I am with dogs, and you made me leave 2 of them behind. And it was, my niece was staying over here. She was little at the time. So she just didn't want dogs she wasn't familiar with around my niece. It's like, we could have worked that out too. We could have left them in crates in my room while she was over or whatever. And yeah, whatever, it didn't happen. So it's like, I don't regret the way things happened though, because it gave me the time and space to make some connections that I would have glossed over, I think, the first time around. Like when I was just putting stuff in the spare room, because we had all sorts of containers in there that never got unpacked to begin with. So when I started shifting my stuff around in there, yeah, it was under the radar, but at the same time, when he did finally find out that I was leaving, he went through and pulled a bunch of stuff out of my boxes and hid it around the house. So it's like all my work was completely wasted. Yeah, so when I went to do it for real, it was, I got my own bank account opened up and then got a job and had only a set amount of money that every week would go into the joint account, and then the rest of it would go to my account. And then I got a storage unit that was out of my own account. So he didn't, or he wasn't aware of it on that end. And so then I could move stuff out safely away from the house, and he wouldn't know about it until it was time, you know. And I was like, I started in the shed, and then like the little closet out on the porch, and like all that stuff. It's like, we're gonna do this right this time. You know. And then it was this big process that way. But you know, it looks like the ones that didn't pan out helped me to get to figure out what I needed to do to make the thing happen, you know. And you know, that was the biggest thing. Every time I was talking to my mom on the phone, I was like, okay, these dogs are not staying. They are mine. They are meant to be with me. Taz has a freaking tree of life on his head. He's supposed to be with me. Gidget was born on 2/22. She's supposed to be with me. It's like, there's no other way. And Ziva was just mine from the get-go, so yeah. You know, but since I did have to leave them for that span of time, they didn't get worked with, you know, so they had some antisocial tendencies, because the way I am confident he didn't stop doing it just because I wasn't there. He had this thing where he would go through and just randomly yell just because the house is too peaceful. That was unacceptable. So he had to yell just to make sure everything was uncomfortable for everybody. So I'm sure if he was doing that for the dogs, well, Gidget was like really sensitive even, and like there's been some stuff that we've had to work through with her too. And I actually love where we're at now, because like seeing her embrace her dogness has been very very rewarding, I think. You know, she's staring at me since I'm talking about her. And she's still a ball obsessed fool, but nonetheless, you know. And Taz, I love my Taz. He, like a bull in a china shop, he doesn't know how to meet other dogs very well. You know, like if we're sniffing at the fence, then he's gonna like plow headfirst into it practically. It's like, have to have something in his mouth, and that's like if he meets anybody, like new people, he has to have his toy in his mouth, because otherwise he chomps his teeth together and it sounds scary. You know, but I've been thinking recently, you know, especially on this whole twin flame journey thing, that if there are other dogs involved on the other end, then I want to know that he is able to be around other dogs. And so far it's been, you know, dogs in the pack he's good with, and it's a matter of, you know, like when we moved in with my parents and their dogs, it took some work, but he figured it out really quick that this is their house. You gotta get along with them. You know, when I brought we actually got Gidget like a couple days before we brought him home on a trial run, and I wasn't sure at that time because he's a healer. He's very headstrong. And wasn't sure how that was gonna go, but it ended up being fine, and she actually bosses him. Of course, when she was a puppy and they were together, they had each other, so she can boss him. But now that my aunt has this little corgi pup, it's like, all right, we're gonna make sure, because I know he can do puppies. He's been around them before. God, Gidget used to be terrified of them. And then the week that we were leaving, my ex showed up with 2 puppies he claimed that he just found in the neighborhood. Somebody had dumped them or whatever. 2 little husky puppies. I was like, yeah. And I knew he was just trying to find a way to keep me there. He's like, nope. Now, I did take them to the vet to make sure they had worms. So we were trying to treat that and keep them away from it, which luckily we had a dog run in the backyard, so puppies got to stay in there for part of the day. But even then, it's like, I'm not taking this on, but at the same time, it was an opportunity to practice with Gidget around puppies. And the first time they went out around her, she climbed in my lap and was trying to climb up on my head, I think. So yeah, that was her first experience with puppies. It looks like my people are home now, so I'm gonna go ahead and I guess call it a day. As always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see you later.